Hi, everyone. This is Bob Dietrich again with another edition of the ADHD Toolbox. And today we are going to talk about something that is very important to you, very important to your child, very important to their future, which is their social skills, their current social skills, and how they develop into the future. And today we have Kolby Kail with us. Hi, Kolby.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? How you doing,
Kolby
Bob?
is a speech therapist, speech pathologist, and she really helps understand speech and social interactions and social engagement and things like that. So we're going to talk to Kolby today about social skills. How do you know when your child may have social skill issues? A lot of children, in fact, maybe every child with ADHD may have some type of social skill challenge. And what can you do about improving that situation? So Kolby, tell us a little bit about what is social skills? How would we identify it? Let's start with that.
Well, social skills in terms of language and communication is really how much do you understand and how much are you following kind of the script of what's going on within a social situation. Are you reading body language? Are you taking into effect facial expressions, gestures, all of the things that help guide the social situation? And so let's just say that your child is taking over the conversation or interrupts. Do they read the other person's facial expression as being like, I really wasn't done talking? Or let's just say if you're having a conversation, personal space becomes very difficult, and the other child starts backing up, or the other person, if it's an older an older adult, they start backing up. And here comes the child with ADHD coming into your personal space. We have to be able to read those things of why is the person backing up? Why are so the small nuances that go along with language that really shape a lot about how the conversation is going. That's really what social skills are in this area that we're looking at here.
Got it. Yeah, it seems to me that all kids kind of invade that space, and it's always about, mommy, I have a question, mommy, I have a question. And but you're saying, I guess at some age that they stop doing that and they start being more aware of that. Is that right?
Sure. Yes. And there's a continuum there in terms of, yes, we expect some children to interrupt, but even a young child. So with my own children, I have a 5 and actually 6 today. Happy birthday to my son. We have our own thing. So when they come up to me and they start, mom, I put my hand on them and they know that I hear them, but I'm not going to look at them until the other person is done talking, my husband, a friend, whoever. Now, does it work all the time? No. Sometimes I have to put my finger over their mouth and let them know that I'm here, but shh, I'm waiting until I'm done. So those are the things. It's kind of a nonverbal thing that you set up with your kids. Even if you notice in a classroom setting, a lot of teachers set up this nonverbal type thing as well for children that are either interrupting or they don't, the personal space. Yes, personal space is an issue when we want personal space. And that comes about 2nd grade is when everybody really wants their personal space. It doesn't come earlier than that, especially for some kids that have sensory issues. But again, that's kind of around 2nd grade is when personal space becomes a reality.
Yeah, it sounds like it's it's really kind of a training issue, right? You're training them to understand that, hey, I'm in a conversation, and eventually you won't have to put your hand on their shoulder anymore.
Right. Exactly. It is absolutely. We are doing, and then also, I mean, I'm sure we're going to get to this in terms of social skills, but they need to be absolutely taught. In their child with ADHD, when we leave them to their own, we can see that they're not understanding or not making the right choice in terms of what is socially acceptable. Are they staying on topic? Are they interrupting constantly? So they really are not staying on topic due to the fact that they keep interrupting and changing the topic and giving their 2 cents of what they think. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's funny because things that I don't think of, I've heard talked about with social skills. For example, kids, especially with ADHD, may not pick up on social cues. And so, somebody may say, my grandma just died. And then it's like, they may not even acknowledge it. And they'll go right into, hey, I want to go to the movies this weekend or something like that. or jump on the game tonight or whatever. And
Or
they,
even, oh, I can't wait to see my grandma next time I see her. To where it's like right in your face. You didn't even acknowledge it, kind of like you said. Yeah.
right. And is there a way to train that, kind of help train around that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we're working discreetly on social skills, we really want to talk about those types of situations. Tell me three things you would do if you wanted to um, enter something like a game on the playground. Tell me, we're going to work on three ways that you could do it, and then you role play. Now, we really want to try to be an advocate for the child at this point in time. So you're going to have to, you being the trainer, really have to take the tone and the idea of kids and what might be the problem that comes into it. So just saying, hey, can I join your game? And that's the way you train social skills. Well, what if Joey says no to your child and says, nope, our game's full? What would you do then? How would you continue to break into that conversation? So yes, you would absolutely train those situations. And so let's say that on if you would say on a card, what would you tell someone that just lost their dog, lost their grandma? What would three things nice that you could say? So those are the types of ways that you train that, is you absolutely work on it. Obviously, if you realize it in the moment and it just happened, that's not a training moment. It's going to be something that you work on when you're not in that direct. You want to do it at a very easy time when this is a training and the kids know that we're going to go back and forth and practice things.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to do it in the moment,
Right.
when the kid might be embarrassed or may be resistant to it, or maybe be emotionally triggered.
Yes. And if I can give you kind of a little story about something on that line that might give it little. So when we want kids to actually experience something and pull it in and really think about it, to talk about it on the fly, especially with a child with ADHD, really is something that I doubt will stick. So let's say that you and your wife are noticing something about your child and it's very concerning. So you might want to set up something where you're going to have a day of fabulousness with your kid. Let's say we're going to go to Boomers. Let's say we're going to go on a hike. And while we're there, we have a really great time. We do this. And then you say to them, because again, you need their buy-in, your mom and I have been pretty concerned. After this day has gone well, you've already had 3 beautiful hours with your child. You are on a great note. Your mom and I have been concerned about something. Would you mind if I share that concern with you? Again, you're asking if they're ready to hear it. So you say to them, we've been very concerned about, and then they say, yes, of course, Dad, you can tell me anything you want. And I say, well, it seems that, lately when you've been talking to your friends, you kind of cut them off and they never get a chance to finish what they're trying to talk about. And it makes someone feel like you don't care what they're talking about. To let them finish their statement and let them talk and ask questions about that, it really makes your friends feel better than to change the subject. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember any of those times? No, Mom, I have no idea what you're talking about. So yesterday when we were in the car on the way to school and Josie was talking about getting a new dog, and you kept talking about your dog that you already had, Josie really never got to talk about her dog and how much it felt good for her to be getting a new dog.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even notice.
Right.
And then usually you would be surprised of how often the child would go home and be like, or go to Josie's house, Josie, I'm so sorry I didn't let you talk about it. So they internally feel it. It came in a non-judgmental way, and you guided them through it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And what's striking to me about ADHD and learning from all you experts is that that the children that display these behaviors that seem rude or seem, vicious or whatever, aggressive maybe, they can't help it. They don't know what they're doing most of the time. And so once they learn how to do it, they completely shift, and this loving part of them comes out, which is kind of the theme to the toolbox here. This second run of the ADHD toolbox is to help highlight the brilliant side and the creative side and the loving side of that person that's hiding behind that ADHD diagnosis or the negative side of ADHD, which is this struggle. And social skills is part of that. And part of getting over social skills is to become aware that I'm even doing what I'm doing, because I don't even know if I've got ADHD and I'm a kid and I'm, behaving rudely or something like that. It sounds like.
And absolutely. And I think a lot of parents don't, I don't know if they are taking it personally, but kind of like you said, in terms of when they say that they want the room clean and the kid doesn't follow through on it, or they kind of roll their eyes, they most children with ADHD and a lot of children in general, they really need to know the point of why something's happening and what is in it for them in terms of how to set it up so where they win in the situation. So if it's about doing a chore, you really talk about what the point of it is, and not telling them how to do it, because it's not about your way of doing it. It's about their way of doing it. You can say, I can tell you how I would clean my room if it was my turn. Do you want me to share that with you? Sure. I would, every time I was done getting dressed, I'd put my clothes away so they didn't leave them on the floor, and I would make my bed every morning. This is how I would do it. But you can do it any way you want, as long as on Thursday, it's clean. And then they say, well, who's gonna be the judge and who's gonna check my room? You are. What do you think is a clean room looks like? And then they say, well, clean room would be a floor that has nothing on it. My bed would be made. In my family, making your bed is not such a big deal. Don't get me wrong, I don't want things everywhere, but you're going to get into bed again tonight, so I don't totally care that it's made. Mm-hmm. So you would establish those, and then you say, okay, so how about we've come in here. If you need help, you can always help me. I'm busy. I have to go to work, but if you need some help, I'd be more than welcome. You can always ask me to help you. Okay, so then you also make so how about twice a week we come in your room and you tell me how things are going and how you're the judge of it, bud. You're going to tell me how it's going, and this is what we're earning, or this is, how you get out of not spending all day Saturday cleaning your room. And then on Tuesday, when that time comes, you and the child, you say to them, okay, we're going to go check your room, and holy moly, here we come. And you walk up to the room and say, ooh, so what do you think? How's it going? Well, it's really hard to keep my room clean and I really can't do it. Well, what did you do? Tell me about what you did do to keep it clean. And then you say, well, who's supposed to help you if you needed some help?
Right. Right.
And then you ask, well, did you need some help right now? Sure. Great. Let's clean it up. And you clean it up together. Is it clean now? Yeah. So you're really setting them up to win and teaching them the steps along the way to where they're their own judge. They're the one that has to call themselves on, nope, that's not clean.
Right.
You're really setting everybody up to win and learn.
Right. Versus walking in and saying, I thought you said you were going to clean your room. This is not a clean room. Right. And you making the judgment.
Absolutely. And
you let them make the judgment.
Right. They're in charge of their own room. And again, you set the guidelines of what happens, but you don't tell them how to do it. I'll tell you how I would clean a room, buddy, but you can do it your way, as long as there's nothing on your floor and the bed is pretty much made.
Yeah. I was just talking to Naomi Alder, excuse me, and she was talking about freedom and giving kids more freedom. She was a guest on our show here, and it was her whole approach is give them more freedom, give them more empowerment, and let them make the call, and you get more out of them because they're doing it out of their choice, which is awesome. And that's kind of what you're saying is the same thing, is give them more choice, empower them with the decision making, which is great for longer term solutions as well.
Absolutely. And that's really, we are raising children. We're not, raising plants or raising, growing whatever. We're growing children. And so it really does foster things long term in terms of what you're the goals you're trying to set in place. Right. And it's setting it's a relationship builder between you and your son or daughter, instead of making it this heated, I told you were going to clean your room, and if it doesn't get done in 15 minutes, that's just, and in this way, like you said, you're giving freedom, you're empowering the child, and you get dialogue. It's not about arguing. You can have a dialogue about, ooh, There are lots of things on the floor in this room. What did you think? What did you put away to make sure the floor was clean? And it's just a back and forth dialogue. It's not about right or wrong. It's about teaching and learning what did they do, because they didn't do anything. You know what I mean? They didn't do anything. So they're probably going to have a lot of answers,
Right.
and maybe even a little guilt to where they're like, I didn't do anything. And that's when you start to build that inner feeling of, I didn't hold up my end of the bargain.
Got it. Got it. So we're talking about children in a home environment with parents.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about teachers in a classroom environment, children with teachers in a classroom environment, and then talk about adults and social skills there. Let's start with the teachers in a teaching environment. What are some things teachers can do to help their children, their students with social skills?
One thing that I would suggest is I would try like maybe a big sticky note or on your blackboard or whiteboard. And the only reason I say a sticky note is it could be referred to again. So, and we would do it with the entire class. I would, in the beginning of the year, when we're setting the tone for our classroom, tell me what a big problem is versus a small problem, and go over your expectations for the children. So they know when someone steals my pencil, that's not something, Joey stole my pencil, make this big deal. If it's a small problem and there's a bucket full of pencils over there, you just go get a new one. That's a small problem. But if someone's kicking you under the table and you politely ask no, that problem has gone up a few stages. I can't concentrate when someone's kicking me under the table. So you're going to decide in your own classroom, big problems versus small problems. So you get big reactions versus small reactions, because really we're trying to build that inner safety, if you will, to where the kids are already set up for success, because they know what you as a teacher expect from them and when to quote unquote tell.
Mm. Yeah, and I hear more and more that part of the problem is with kids, especially with behavioral learning challenges, is that they don't differentiate between a threat, like a big problem, and a small problem, right? So some things, homework's not a threat, but they just perceive it as a threat, so they go into meltdown. And so, to what you're saying, it sounds like, is to avoid the meltdowns and to avoid the bigger behavioral issues,
Mhm.
that you classify these different possibilities into big problems and small problems, and then you'll have a big reaction and little reaction.
Yes, and so the same thing somewhat applies to teasing and bullying. They're two different things.
Hmm.
And so to set it up in the beginning of the school year, so you talk to your kids, teasing usually stops when you say, don't say that to me anymore, I don't like it.
Hmm.
So if I'm calling you a little booger head over and over and you're a booger, and I say, please don't call me a booger, and then they stop, that's teasing. They were teasing you. But if this kid is you ask them to stop and they keep going over and over, now we're getting into bullying because I've asked you to stop. And so if a teacher can set that precedent in the beginning of the school year, if someone asks you not to do something to them, I expect you as a child not to do it, because now we're moving into the bully stage. Kids are very aware what bullying is these days. I mean, it's everywhere. So, however, they don't exactly know what teasing is on the difference, because kids tease. That they do. My two children tease all the time. And to allow the kids to still be children, to where they can tease and they can have fun, and you don't get, did you ask Joey to stop calling you that? No, he just keeps saying it. Well, honey, you need to use your voice and voice what you need from him. Then please come talk to me, because once you ask Joey, he needs to stop. So you set those rules nice and clear within your classroom, so everybody knows what's expected of them.
Yeah, that's great. And it sounds like a great tool that teachers can start using right away. I mean, I'm guessing that a lot of teachers don't distinguish between bullying and teasing, and if they do, they may not do it for their kids or to their kids, so that the students understand the difference. And it also, I think, would make a difference with the kids too. It's like, oh, if I keep teasing him after he told me no, now I'm being a bully. I mean, nobody, I think, really wants to be a bully.
Not
Um,
usually.
yeah, so they don't even know they're bullying unless they're giving that distinction. So that's a great tip. Awesome. So let's go into let's talk a little bit about adults. So what have you seen from adults with um, social challenges? And what is there anything that we can do to help? Any tips that we can give them to help improve their social challenges? In their life and around around
Sure.
the things that are in their life.
Um, I would say one of the things that I find is and by older, I'm guessing we're talking about anybody above the age of like 15. So I find that they start to pull back. What were you going to say?
No, I was say more like maybe 20, but yeah.
Well, I mean, okay. They start to pull back from society.
Mhm.
A phone is and a TV and movies and Netflix and all those things are very easy to lose yourself in. However, usually the more often we are on a screen, if you will, the less we are interacting with humans. And that is not a good thing because you don't get feedback. And feedback is the name of the game. I mean, it's life. You need to take in that feedback. And in all reality, that's what we're teaching the children and what we just talked about.
Right. And so likes on your Facebook page isn't feedback, right?
No, it's not feedback. It is no, exactly. And feeling good about yourself for getting those likes isn't real. I mean, don't get me wrong, it gives you a high for a moment, but I think that there's actually serotonin or something that's released in the brain. I think there's a whole like science behind that whole thing. But my thing is I would schedule, if you are a human, an adult with ADHD, I would find a place that you find a niche. Is it bowling? Is it a gardening club? Is it whatever? And slowly inch yourself into those communities and try to be persistent on showing up every Tuesday in the beginning. And then you're going to show up Tuesday and Wednesday once you get comfortable. And those types of things. So you're still giving yourself baby steps, but you are setting goals for yourself in terms of moving yourself back into a group thing. And if you're not into group stuff, maybe you start going to the Y and swimming and you're just around people and you can have small little conversations with people about the water and how it felt today and all of those types of things, just so you can get that social interaction and decrease the anxiety that you feel with it, because probably you haven't had very many good experiences in the past and that's why you backed up anyways. So try to find little successes for yourself in those in life. But I would really, really push you to get back out into a social setting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And reminds me of several things that I personally have done that have been just transformative for me. One of them is going to concerts, being around bigger groups of people. If you don't like huge crowds like that, maybe you go to a smaller group meeting. Like I'll go to Toastmasters, for example. We practice public speaking, which for many people doesn't sound relaxing, but it can be therapeutic. And when you find the right group of people that you like to be with, whether it's Toastmasters or anything, then it can really be magical for your social life and your social skill building. So those are some tips that I've done, and certainly in line with what you're talking about, which is get out of the house, put the phone down, and get yourself into some groups that you really enjoy spending time with.
I agree. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, fantastic. And I also like aligning those groups up with things that are going to help me in certain areas, whether it's with public speaking or maybe personal development. Find a personal development like Landmark or something like that, and make it something that where you're working on yourself at the same time you're getting the social skills. You get a 2-for-1 there, and you're building your maybe your business skills at the same time you're building your social skills. So that's awesome.
I'm totally in on that, but I think that children and people with ADHD, to me, finding something you're good at in terms of bowling or gardening or something that you personally have an interest in, because then you want to go. And yes, don't get me wrong, you can work on your bowling while you're there and you can work on your green thumb while you're there.
Right.
But really, you're going to be talking to people that are on your wavelength, that talk bowling, that talk plants, that talk those things, to where you might find someone that is a social butterfly that really you connect quite well with. And that person really does more of the talking, but you guys hit it off. You're an active listener. You get to put in your 2 cents here and there, but really you just find a connection with someone. And for me, don't get me wrong, I love building, personal development.
Mhm.
But the first thing is to get yourself out there.
Yep.
Get out there.
Yep. And making sure that you love to do it, because that's what's going to motivate you to keep doing it.
I agree. Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for this information. I mean, we could have gone on all day about this because there's so much to cover, and it's so important. If you have children out there with ADHD, you need to pay attention to their social skills, because that's going to be consistently, it's an area where they fall behind, and they
It's
need.
a long-term goal too.
Yeah.
You're really setting them up for independence as adults, and or as an adult, you're setting yourself up for feeling good in your own skin.
Great. Well, if you're looking to get a hold of Kolby, you'll have more questions for her. Information's below. Also, you're going to give us a free checklist. Tell us a little bit about the checklist, and you're going to be able to click on the link below and get that checklist as well. So tell us about.
So this checklist is something that's kind of so in many cultures, there's very different, it varies what your social skills, eye contact, all those things. So when you look at this checklist, again, this is just something that is kind of a guideline. It's nothing set in stone, but when you look at this, you're going to kind of find, oh yeah, I'm on track. I have some areas of need, or maybe I need to dig in and contact someone to kind of talk them through this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what you're going to find. Are you on par, or do you need a little more help, or maybe some digging to find out where you're lacking, or where your deficit is, and what you need to work on to either increase your skills, increase your child's skills, those types of things. So it's really just going to kind of put you in a category.
Got it. So you can take it for yourself, or you can take it for your child to find out where your child is in development.
Sure. Yes.
And then you get an answer from that, and then you can go deeper. You give Kolby a message and ask her any questions you have about it. And thank you so much for being on our program. Thank you for the information. I mean, social skills is like everything. I mean, it covers so many areas your entire life. So it's very important to tackle early, especially if you have kids with ADHD, and they're going to have social challenges, and you'll be able to overcome them. So thank you so much, Kolby. Thank you for being on the program.
Of course, anytime. Thank you for having me again.
Great.
Have a great day, everybody.
Great. And thank you for watching this episode of the ADHD Toolbox. We will see you on the next episode.